What is up, Minties? The Uncanny Omar here with...
Oh, am I introducing myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Lawyer Dan. I don't have a better thing. Shit.
That's an amazing superhero dynamic duo. Uncanny Omar and Lawyer Dan.
Let's put it
Anyway.
That's going to be my my alias for this episode.
Okay. So, you've seen Dan on our panel episodes, and he's joined me a couple times for comic book stuff. But today, we wanted to focus on this thing that's been going around everywhere on YouTube lately. A lot of toy channels have done it. Episodes about it. Because this was kind of a weird thing that just got thrown at us like in the middle of 2 weeks ago. And I started watching videos about it. And most of them were done by, people like me. I'm like, oh, wait, I don't know shit about the law. I know somebody that does, though.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to do this video.
Yep.
And people have emailed and messaged me about it and left comments about doing an episode and how COPPA,
the Child Online Privacy Protection Act,
and how it's going to affect comic book channels. I guess much like this one, even though we vary in things. But
all right. So before we get started, we got two housekeeping things. First, I am acting as Omar's attorney here, and Nearman Conditions attorney, not as your attorney. So this isn't legal advice to the audience. This is legal advice to Omar. So if you have questions, you need to speak to your own attorney. Don't rely on this video for legal advice. Secondly, we're going to talk about this, and I'm actually planning to give Omar real advice as to what we do about our channel. So for purposes of that, are you comfortable waiving attorney-client privilege so we can share this with the audience?
Sure. I share everything with the audience just about. So, yes, that's fine. Legal advice.
All right, so that waiver only applies to the content of this video, and anything else we might talk about that's not in this video regarding this or any other topic is not waived, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm glad I do not start my videos
Ethical
like
obligations out of the way. This is why
Ethics.
lawyers are fun.
Yeah.
All
Lawyer
right.
Dan kicking ass.
So in general, one of the things you said is how COPPA is going to affect this. And in some ways that's the issue, and in some ways not.
Okay, how so?
So COPPA itself, right, only applies to a company or a person who collects data from children. So it only applies indirectly to content creators on YouTube. And we'll get back to why that's important later.
Okay.
But the issue here was that basically the FTC didn't sue YouTube, but they were basically in negotiations about suing YouTube because YouTube knowingly collects information from its viewers who are under 13 years old.
YouTube being owned by Google then.
Yes.
Right? So
YouTube and Google, they know that they have channels on their service that are directed at children. They've been doing targeted ads on users who watch those channels.
Okay.
And so basically there was no way that they were getting out of this. I keep saying they knew, but really that doesn't matter. This COPPA is what we call a strict liability statute, which means that if you are doing it, you are violating the statute, regardless of whether you intend to violate the law or not.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm following you so far.
So what this is and how this all came about is in September, they announced a settlement between the Federal Trade Commission and Google, in which Google's going to pay, $170 million or something like that.
Chump change.
For Google, yes.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a slap on the wrist. It's little more than that.
And so because of this, they're now cracking down on content makers, right?
Well, yes and no. Basically, they have to put a system in place that denotes content that is directed at children and says we're not going to collect any information on any viewer who watches that content. Because we can't tell who's a child and who's not. So we have to do it based on the content.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Makes sense. Where this goes a little weird, it
gets weird.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, when we first started talking about doing this, I went through and watched a bunch of the COPPA videos, and oh my God, the clickbaity panic, right?
Well, it goes both ways, right? Like, you want people to watch your videos, and you want to attract a new audience. You want to gain more Patreons, and in a way, telling people like, "Hey, we're not gonna be making money off of YouTube, even though it's literally pennies on the $0.5
Yeah.
or whatever. It's a way to, I get it. Clickbait's a thing. It's
So-
kind of what we're doing.
But I think what we can add to that is a couple of things. First, I was a federal prosecutor for 2 years. I kind of understand how that works. And secondly,
I watched a lot of LA Law
yeah,
and Law and Order.
there you go.
So I still don't know what the hell's going on.
So what this boils down to is that YouTube, so it can comply with this order, this settlement order, has put in this system where anybody who's uploading a new video and all content that is in your back catalog has to be labeled either for kids, or basically directed at children, or not directed at children. It's not a question of I'm marking it for kids or not. It's you are certifying this is directed at children or it is not directed at children.
Gotcha.
You have to make basically an affirmative statement one way or the other. And if you've uploaded a video in the last 2 weeks, you've seen that on the video.
It's everywhere.
You can't avoid it.
So, Lawyer Dan, hypothetically speaking, if you know somebody that has a YouTube channel that focuses on overviews of collected editions, comic books, or has comic book reviews on their channel, me, how do I mark it for kids or do I mark it not for kids? Like, what covers my butt?
Okay, so if you're wanting to cover your butt all the time, you mark it directed at children.
Interesting. What if there's adult language involved, though?
Doesn't matter for purposes of this.
Okay.
Yeah. See, that's where it gets weird. So if you mark it as directed at children,
Okay.
then YouTube won't collect information on it. You won't be able to do end cards or, any of that stuff. Because data won't be collected on it,
Okay.
it won't ever run afoul of this statute and these regulations. One thing to keep in mind, too, is that directed to children is a question you have to ask yourself about your channel in general
Okay.
and each particular video. You may have a channel that is not generally directed to children, but may have individual videos that are directed to children,
Okay.
right? Probably not the other way around.
Probably not.
But so directed to children is actually a legal term of art in the statute. And like a lot of things in the law, it uses a factor test.
Okay.
Where basically there are a bunch of factors that a court would consider in determining whether something is directed at children. The factors are subject matter, the visual content of the video, the use of animated characters or child-oriented activities or incentives, the type of music or other audio content that's used, the age of the presenters, presence of child celebrities or celebrities that appeal to children,
No Hannah
language.
Montana here. Language, right.
Or generally other characteristics that might indicate that something is directed to children.
So
right?
if you...
Which is kind of a catch-all.
Well, let's just use this video, for example, then.
So this video, no, obviously not. We're talking about the law.
Yeah,
I'm
kid wants
I'm
to...
sorry, you poor child. Go outside.
Go watch Harvey Birdman.
Let's talk in examples for a minute, and then we'll talk about consequences.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you're doing a Amazing Spider-Man floppy, and you're doing a review of that, right? That's something a kid might go buy, and that a kid might be interested in going to buy.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The subject matter would lean toward directed at children.
But if I'm doing
What take are you bringing to it? Are you saying, this is not as good as the Spider-Man of my childhood? Or this is why this is like almost an academic examination of this story in the context of Spider-Man.
Okay.
Things that are adult-focused discussions of that comic book
Of the content.
are going to lean toward not directed at children.
Okay.
Right? If you have your kids on the video, obviously that's going to lean toward directed to children.
Absolutely.
Kids on a video, I think you should probably just, anytime, mark it directed to children.
Okay.
Right? Because that's going to be probably an overriding factor. But frankly, when you're doing your reviews of these omnibuses, I think there's a very good argument that, look, this is a $150 book.
Well, I was going to say price,
Right?
and then some of these books are mature content, such as
Well,
the case
obviously,
of
mature
Berserk.
content,
Like
yeah.
Berserk, right? Like
I would say...
Even though children do stumble on these videos, how is one, as a creator of the content...
That content the content, if the content of what you're talking about is not aimed at children, I think you're safe.
Okay.
Like if it's mature content or even questionably mature content.
Okay.
But I don't think it would hurt at the beginning of those types of videos to say, look, this isn't a kid's book. This is a book for grown-ups. I mean, something along
Unless
those
you're
lines.
Richie Rich. Right?
Right, but it's all factors. So it's you've really got to consider it back and forth. And if you want to be safe, the best thing you can do is market directed to children. Frankly, of every channel that is not intentionally directed at children, but that children are interested in, gaming channels probably have it the worst.
I've seen the toy guys go on about it.
You know what?
And I was like, okay.
That's the stuff that I watched. And, you know, I was going to say no offense to those guys. I don't know those guys personally. I know. I'm sure they mean well. But you know what? The videos that I watch and the channels that are getting freaked out about this are not channels that do videos that are interesting to kids. It's, here's this new He-Man figure that is $30 and that no one who's under the age of 30 has any interest in whatsoever. Right? Here's the history of this franchise from the 80s. You know, things like that. Like, just because the subject matter was originally a children's toy or originally a children's cartoon, it doesn't mean that it has an attractiveness to current children. And I think that's part of the factors too. Well,
So why are these guys freaking out? Like, I'm serious. Like, there were commenters that were genuinely worried about our content, about comic book people's content.
There is plenty of our content that we need to go back and mark as directed at children.
What?
I mean, granted, it's not like our back catalog is generating bank, but
have you seen our old episodes? Anyway, but
you know, so for instance, like going from our back catalog, just from Nearman Condition
sure.
Panel shows back catalog, like your basement tours, I think you should mark those as directed at children.
Okay.
Because you're talking about the things in general, but it's
slips in some of those.
Right.
Books.
I know, absolutely. But
I think
that you got to think about, it's kind of like the attractive nuisance concept in the law, like a pool, right? You're still liable if kids jump your fence to swim in your pool.
Oh, right. Oh, that's so ridiculous.
And a video like that is just like, look at all this stuff, you know. And even if you're talking about it, obviously there may be exceptions. You know, if you're doing a video about your the statues you keep in the back,
those are top shelf statues.
You know, I wouldn't think that. But like if you did a video about all your Transformers, I think I would probably mark that as directed to kids.
What happens to channels that don't? What happens to us? We'll use us as an example.
Sure.
What happens if we don't go back and change it to suitable for children?
Well, I think one of the things to keep in mind too, and I mentioned this earlier, but is you also look at the channel in general, right? So our channel advertises itself as basically 40-somethings talking to 40-somethings.
30-something. 30-something. Yes, 40-something.
You wish.
40-something-year-olds talking to 40-something-year-olds.
Right. I mean, and we come at it from a nostalgia and what is cool to adult collectors kind of view. You know, in a way, it's almost like the warnings you see on statues and, you know, other things that look like toys that say adult collectible, not for children, right? So they don't have to.
So we need to walk around with T-shirts like that.
Well, I mean, not necessarily that, but everything has to be looked at both in the context of the individual video and the channel itself. So I think the focus of our channel being grown-ups talking about grown-up stuff to grown-ups works in our favor.
Okay.
Look at your audience demographics. Look at your audience demographic information, and
if it's accurate, right?
Well, I mean, you know,
because anybody can say I'm 25-year-old man,
but it's the only thing you have to go on.
Right.
If your audience skews to 13 to 19, you know, as opposed to 20 to 34 or higher,
right?
Then,
I see what you're saying.
You know, you may have problems.
Okay.
I think ours skews a little older.
I think so too. So let's go back and talk about, because this is what I wanted to talk about. So then what is the possible consequence of somebody not marking it geared towards kids?
So this is where it gets interesting.
Damn it, more interesting?
So the FTC had this press conference when they announced this settlement, and they said, "Oh, we can under this settlement if content creators don't, properly mark their content as directed at children or not, we can go after them individually." And you never want to challenge Uncle Sam, but I'd like to see you try, because the thing is,
are you challenging Uncle Sam?
No, but I'd like to see you try.
You want to see me try to change Uncle Sam?
The thing about that is, okay, the statute is directed at the entity that is collecting the information.
Okay, so then that is...
Okay, so as it is, I don't know if there are cases out there where they've tried to go against someone who has put content on someone else's platform that helps the platform collect information on children.
I got you.
Right? So as it is, you're already 2 steps back from direct liability. That's going to be a big hurdle for any cases they try to bring. I mean, as an attorney, I could tell you that's a motion to dismiss right there. That is, if not a...
I have played
if not a
Phoenix,
win, it is
so
definitely
I know what that means.
A good argument. If YouTube decides that you're willingly... marking your stuff as not for children to get ad dollars when your channel is obviously for children, then YouTube can suspend your account and cancel your account, cancel monetization, all that sort of thing that YouTube can do basically to anybody it doesn't like for any reason whatsoever.
Okay.
So, no real change, folks, from the way YouTube, your terms of service already read. They could just cut you off if they want to for no reason, and they don't ever have to give you one. Sorry.
Man.
But legally,
so
right?
It's a lot of the channels are having issues with the money then, right?
Yes.
Because ads geared towards children don't pay as much as general ads, right?
Well, no, I mean, because they're
general
ads
right.
don't pay as much as targeted ads.
Targeted ads.
I mean, I would think that your primary content creators who are going to be in trouble here are the big toy companies. The big, like Hasbro has a ton of YouTube channels. And that's probably a huge, for a company like that, that's probably a decent revenue stream.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just kids watching commercials, right?
Yeah.
You're right. They're much bigger targets. But the thing is, if the FTC wants to go against somebody, what they're going to be relying on if they go against an individual creator like you and me, as opposed to someone like Hasbro, is just scaring you. And they're going to scare you into a small settlement. Because you don't want to go to court and be liable for, I keep hearing the number $42,000.
Yeah, where did that come from?
Frankly, I haven't found it. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Maybe there's statutory damages. I don't know. But
42.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So, I've spent a little bit getting ready for this.
Like a real lawyer.
I haven't scoured the earth. Well, when you start paying me, I'll scour the earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not get crazy.
I know. Let's not get nuts. But if the FTC were to take you to court, they'd have to have a lawyer do it. Lawsuits are expensive. Lawsuits take time.
Well,
Lawsuits take money. They have to write a complaint. They can't just say, you owe us $40,000.
They would have to use people as examples. I mean, that's more than likely I don't know if they would. It's YouTube, right?
You hit a PewDiePie for...
Well, they wouldn't go after people like that because that's their revenue and that's who makes money. You would go for a middle.
The FTC might go after someone like that.
Got it.
And and he can afford to hire a lawyer.
YouTube will hire a lawyer for him. He makes way too much money for them.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. But if you hit like middle, like the people with 80,000 to 100,000 subscribers that have a little bit of an earning, but still,
right.
It's
those are the people that if they decide to make an example, that they'll go after. And frankly, I am sure there are attorneys out there who would be interested in taking those cases.
A YouTube attorney, dude. Ideas. I'll talk to you later.
Call me.
Call me. I'm his representative.
That's right. Wait, what? He's my agent.
Yes.
They can't just say you owe us $40,000 because you did this. They have to actually take you to court and they have to actually prove it. Like, it's due process. They can't just levy it. They can't just tell you, no, you're guilty of violating the law and you owe us money. They have to actually prove it.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean...
So everybody, you think, is freaking
something.
out about nothing?
No, I don't think people are freaking out about nothing. But I think the actual day-to-day practical likelihood of any channel, any individual channel getting legal repercussions from this, like actually sued over this, is slim to none. I think the FTC talks a big game, and they will probably, in a year or two, unveil some, signature suit against some big content creator who was willfully violating. But I think if you can, basically, what it's going to come down to, at the end of the day, is good faith. Did you take the time to understand what this is requiring? And did you take the time to go through your content thoughtfully? As long as you can show that I'm thinking about this, I am trying to apply it in a way that is reasoned and thoughtful to my videos. And, if the FTC or YouTube come knocking at your door, you could say, look, hey, here's all the stuff I've done. I think about this with every video. You could see all these ones that I've marked as for kids, and you could see all the ones that I've marked as not for kids, and they are different. Then I think you're going to be fine.
So thank you for watching, and we hope we were able to help some of you all out if you are making content, if you're not making content. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, share with whomever you want to, and
I will say too, if you have questions, put them in the comments. We may not be able to answer. Just there are things that are going to be legal advice, and we're not going to give legal advice on our YouTube channel, except me to Omar just now, his personal legal advice.
Personal legal advice.
We're not going to do legal advice at large, but, it's an interesting conversation to have. And so, you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it.
Okay, we'll end it at that then. Thank you for watching.